on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
And I tell you guys I love you. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I will ride with this group until they don't let us play anymore.
There was. That was Kevin O'Connell right before the night practice last night, getting everyone fired up for an under the lights extravaganza.
I did see
it was. Yeah.
He took the mic right to the crowd. I did see he did a little pump up to the crowd, right?
Did that last year too. Yep. Gave him you're incredibly important. Opening day, I expect to see you there and make as much noise as possible, because last season they opened at home against the Packers. It's the Bucs this time, not as exciting, but yes, he definitely had the pump up the crowd. You guys are great speech, which is fine. It's fun.
And then did he hand you the microphone
night
after that to kind of put a stamp on it?
So he did approve. I brought, since he broached the subject on KFXN during the course of the week about being in Home Depot and having people come up and say, before I die, I just want one, coach, before I die. And I don't think he was aware of the background there, despite the fact he's been on our show a couple times, but clearly he's a busy man. So I did bring him a Before I Die beer and said, this is what it's all about. I said, this is what it's all, and he was very excited. He's like, oh, cool. Okay, yeah. And I said, that's just a motto that we started as a rallying cry for all of these people, some old, some very young, who just want a Super Bowl. And then I was also told that Kirk Cousins is very aware of this as well. And has said before that when he sees a Before I Die shirt or something that says Before I Die, he knows exactly what that's about. So the Vikings are very aware of the mission of Purple Daily.
That's really cool. That's really cool. And so you're telling me, real quick here, that the head coach of the Purple has a can of Surly Before I Die lager in his possession right now. That is,
yes.
That's
now, I'm
amazing.
not sure if he's going to chill it and drink it, in which case I can certainly get him more, or if he's just going to put it on his desk. But yes, the rallying cry that he heard while shopping for things on his honey-do list has now come full circle to where he's like, okay, this is where it started. This is what it's all about, and it's encapsulated in a beer.
Wow, that might have been the best right there. I mean, I don't know how we can plug Surly's Before I Die lager any better than that story you just told right there. So why don't you go to your local liquor store and pick up one of these glorious cans that represents the rallying cry for all of us here on Purple Daily.
Yep, exactly right. So it is now infiltrated TCO, you guys. So Before I Die, the mission, the beer, the entire thing. If you were on the fence about, should I try this beer? Should I? Damn right you should, because the mission is now complete in this sense. It has now infiltrated the actual participants in the Before I Die campaign to end, 62 years?
We've stormed the practice facility.
Exactly right. We're in the building. We're
inside.
in the building. Surly is in the building, and you should be in your bar or at your liquor store enjoying Before I Die.
Also, before we get started here, it's going to be mostly Judd's Camp Notes. We will mix in some feedback here on our Friday live stream here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. A shout out to our friends at TCL, one of the world's best-selling consumer electronics brands. They have a new lineup of award-winning TVs delivering the most entertainment with stunning resolution at an affordable cost. Learn more at TCL.com. Inspire greatness with TCL, an official TV partner of the NFL. Judd, you've been I'm going to be at training camp a few days next week. I'll be at the night practice on Tuesday, so nice. I'm going to ramp up my training camp participation here for week 2. But one of the cool things, and you experienced this last night, I experienced it on Monday when I was there. If there are Purple Daily listeners and viewers in the crowd, do not be shy. Do not hesitate to say hi. Okay? Sports Dad won't bite you. Old Macadac won't bite you. We love meeting you. So if you do see us roaming around, the media sections or the fan sections of practice, feel free to shout out. We'd love to say hi and give you a pound-ski.
Absolutely. In fact, I had, because the stadium practice last night, fans, because we were on the sideline. So fans, it's a little bit harder in the training camp practices because we're often hidden below the stands. So fans can't see us as much. But in this case, it was perfect. And I had, I don't know, a bunch of folks shout me out, asked to shake my hand. We'll get to one training camp note in which a guy screamed at me, you make sure Dex sees this. You make sure that Dex knows this. So there's actually a guy, and
I know what it is.
And Guy and I are on the same page. Guy and I are on the same page. But yeah, I don't think people understand how much we appreciate that, though. Like, it is so cool. Yeah. And look, we've come from a place of starting this up back in the old radio days as well. But I mean, it is much appreciated. So yes, thank you for all of you who not just consume us, but shout us out. In fact, I was going to try and show you this quickly. This is Sports Dad. If you're watching on YouTube, actually signing during the practice.
You're signing autographs.
A young man asked me to sign his Vikings flag, and I also signed a football. And yes, he said, I love the podcast. And this kid was probably, I don't know, 12 or something. So I am actually signing during the practice.
Oh my God.
And again, I'd like to say I want to thank people because that is really, really cool.
Do like players and other media see you signing autographs at Vikings
Seifert took that picture. Kevin Seifert took the picture without me asking.
Oh, that's hilarious.
He's like, I took a picture, which was very nice of Kevin. But yeah, it was. It's really, really cool. It's very gratifying to know that our work hits home. And I was asked to sign. I did realize, though, so if this is going to become a thing, and I'm not sure how you guys approach this or feel about it, because one kid asked me to sign his football. If this is going to become a thing, even occasionally, like rarely, I got to improve my signature.
Oh, wow.
I don't got the great signature.
You know, like Harmon Killebrew, the old Twins player.
Well, and a lot of athletes I give them credit. Like, there's a lot of, especially ex-players, who do a really nice job with the big looping, and I can improve mine. I'd like to apologize that my
Wolfgang Gangwolf chimes in here in the YouTube comment section. Hey, Judd, my name's Little Johnny. Can I get an autograph? Hello. What's your name again?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't know. Like, don't ask me to personalize it.
Little Billy.
Don't ask me to personalize it because I'll forget your name by the time I commit the pen to the piece of the thing to sign, and then it'll be all.
So if you're ranking like the demand for autographs inside the arena, inside the practice facility, Justin Jefferson number 1, Kirk Cousins maybe number 2, Daniil Hunter and Judd Zulgad probably 4 on that list, just ahead of Harrison Smith.
It was very gratifying.
So you signed a couple, not just one?
You signed multiple autographs at Vikings practice last night.
I signed a kid's banner and then a football. Because I went to the stands because they're like, Judd, at Purple Daily, we love it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, thanks a lot. I try and say thank you and like walk and shake hands. I mean,
you've come a long way from when, we were doing just AM radio, 8-10 years ago. And like the only people that would recognize you at Vikings practice are like the bar owners of Boomtown and maybe Applebee's.
Judd.
Like the bar manager at Applebee's be like, you gonna close us down again tonight?
Johnny B's, man. Johnny B's. What a good roast beef sandwich. Yes, you're correct.
Amazing. Well, let's get into some Judd camp notes here now that we've got the self-gratification part of the show out of the way.
Thank you, people. Yep.
What stood out to you at Vikings night practice last night?
All right, so as the kids like to say, pack a lunch. We got some observations, okay? Mm-hmm. So like if you want a meaty lot of information, you're about to get it, including some transactions that we'll get to as well, because the Vikings are sniffing around a veteran cornerback, and they are on the precipice of signing an XFL star running back. But anyway, let's start with the actual practice itself and who did and who didn't take part. Marcus Davenport on the field did not take part, and he has not taken part in a practice now for, I believe it's the last 2. He did go through, obviously, the walkthrough on Thursday, but that's a walkthrough. That's not a practice. So Kevin O'Connell started his availability yesterday by basically giving updates on a few players and then saying, beyond that, I don't really have much to tell you. So the Davenport thing, I don't know. He is there, so it's not like he's gone. But something happened there. I'm sure we'll find out eventually. But that's a little bit of a concern because, like, you are relying on him, hopefully, to have, a bounce back year. This is like the prove it year for him. And he certainly has the talent to be, if not a game changer, with Daniil Hunter on the other linebacker side. He has the talent to be an impactful player, but it is a little bit concerning, and hopefully it's just a tweak or something. But that was the first one.
That's interesting. I mean, why hasn't he played as many snaps as other edge rushers? Is it injury stuff for him the last few years? He's not like a 900 snaps guy in his career, you know? So that
more
that
situational, maybe? I don't know off the top of my head, but I would guess it was, I would guess he might be more of a third down guy then.
Well, like even with the Saints, right? I'm guessing a little bit here, but I remember the last time I looked at his reference page, he's only played like at the most like 60% of snaps on defense. It might even be less than that.
Yeah. He's only played 500 snaps once in his 5-year career. So they're either using him situationally or like last year, he didn't miss a game, but he didn't play. Like Daniil Hunter's playing 65, 70 snaps in a game. Marcus Davenport's playing 30 to maybe 45.
Right.
So, all right, something to keep an eye on.
Andrew Booth Jr. didn't participate again. Now, he left practice early back on Tuesday, walked off with a doctor. This is just a concern, and I think that the Vikings are probably sniffing around a veteran cornerback because if you're not available, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. So the reality is, and I think we talked about this more extensively yesterday, so we don't have to harp on it, but Andrew Booth Jr. is a guy who was clearly on the second team. Like he is not bumping up. And this team, we'll get to this. Brian Flores is itching to create competition. Like this is fun. But Booth Jr. has not really gotten his way into that. And now he's hurt. They said that they were going to take a look at him possibly to practice last night, but he didn't. That's just another one where, you know, he's a second-round pick. You'd like more, right? But they did take a chance there. And if he can't stay healthy, I guess the question is, how many times do you hit your head against the wall with this one? Like, I understand he's still young. I'm not saying that you should give up immediately, but he's a guy who dealt with injuries, I think, going back to high school. And now he was hurt last year, didn't play much at the start of the year, then got a chance and immediately got hurt. I think it was a torn meniscus against Dallas. So he didn't practice, and I would be concerned that he can't stay on the field. And when he was on the field for a defense that really wants to create competition, he was clearly second team.
So, I mean, I don't want to jump too far ahead, or maybe this is a good segue into. I mean, they're obviously looking at help and depth, right? Can we get into the Ronald Darby report now? Is this a good segue?
Sure. Yeah, it's fine. Yep.
I mean, I don't know if it's like a direct correlation to Andrew Booth Jr. once again can't stay healthy, or if it's just, hey, there's a guy that's been pretty damn good before a torn ACL who's available. But it sounds like they've got their eyes on a 29-year-old rock solid but recovering from ACL injury cornerback in Ronald Darby, right?
Didn't they sniff around him last year before the season too? I think he had been let go, and they sniffed around him as well.
Was it 2 years ago? So he's been with Denver
At some
for
point
2
they
years.
did.
It might have been a couple years ago. Like
okay.
He's actually been with 5 teams. He's drafted second-round pick by Buffalo back in 2015.
Yep.
2 years with Buffalo. Then he spent 3 years with Philadelphia. Yep. 1 year in Washington, the pandemic year of 2020, and then Denver for the last 2 years.
Okay. Well, if you look at the age of their corners, it makes a lot of sense to probably bring in a guy who certainly might not start, but gives you veteran depth. So Darby makes sense. I'm sure that the Darby look-see might have something to do with Booth, but the Booth thing too is just a concern. Like this guy cannot stay healthy. So that's a definite concern. Brian O'Neill was in full uniform for the first time in training camp. Now, he did not take part, and I don't expect him to, and they shouldn't, especially on turf. But it does appear that his progression, and it was a foot doctor who was on Write That Down about a month ago, basically outlined for us good stuff about why it was very possible that he was going to be absolutely fine. So it looks like the progression of work off to the side is now being ramped up a bit. And that is obviously great news. That offensive line is not the same without him.
So he just like wears pads to get like, is that just
practice.
Like a football thing? We're just going to put the pads on and stand on the
sweat
sideline.
Well, he went through he went through like the individual like when they start. He did some stuff, but like teamwork he won't do, which is fine. I'm sure he will not play until at the earliest September 10th against the Buccaneers. But the fact is, like, you're looking for, is he progressing? Is he going to be doing more? Because, I mean, this guy is so key this guy is so important. And it looks like the answer to that is yes. The next one is reckless speculation, but it was interesting. This is
Hold on a second.
Reckless speculation.
Let's make sure we're all in the.
Yeah.
And for people that aren't aware, reckless speculation is a safe space to speculate recklessly about our teams. Okay.
right.
No judgment.
So night practice, team drills, TJ Hawkinson in uniform appears absolutely fine. Didn't take part in the team drills. TJ Hawkinson.
I have a follow-up to that.
Okay.
There was a picture of TJ Hawkinson
Seifert
talking
took this.
casually with Ziggy Wilf, who looks great,
Well,
by the way. Ziggy Wilf.
You should have
is,
seen the
lean.
picture of Seifert and I having a conversation with our guy.
Oh, with
Mr.
the
Wilf.
Zigmeister? Oh,
The Zigmeister
wow.
stopped by, told us to have a great season.
Wow. Was he doing that with everyone? He's just like in
No,
a jolly
no,
mood. Hey,
no,
TJ,
no, no.
Jolly.
I was on the private plane. Seifert covered him when he bought the team. No, Ziggy was not looking for pressing the flesh with members of the Fourth Estate. He only did it with those that he knew. And yes, and so
Yeah,
TJ Hawkinson.
he doesn't even make eye contact with anyone that hasn't been on his private plane at least once, right? So
He came by. In fact, I think it was on Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken, in an MLS. It wasn't an official league game. It was some type of cup game. Orlando played Miami, and the Wilfs do own the Orlando men's and women's team, and so he was there to watch Messi.
who scored
So we-
2 more goals? He's got
we talked
5
about it.
goals in like 3
We're
games.
soccer guys. We're soccer guys. We're football guys.
What does Ziggy think of Messi? Does he give a
Oh,
couple
he's very
takes?
excited. Oh yeah,
For
he's
the
super
league.
excited because the league. Yeah, it's going to help the league tremendously. Like he is absolute soccer royalty. So yes, he is very excited. He was quite surprised that Miami is not playing a game here though, because I said, yeah, we don't get to see him. No Messi here. We don't get to see him. But anyway, yeah, the Hawkinson talking to Wilf was intriguing. I can't think of anything I've seen that would make me say that Hawkinson is holding in, but perhaps they're close to an extension or something. It was
it's
just
the time of
interesting.
year.
I don't think, I mean, he might be banged up. I don't know, but it certainly didn't look like it. And yes, it's the time of year. This is ordinarily the time when Brzezinski likes to get something done.
Yeah, he's been in his lair all week long. If I had to venture a guess, this is just reckless speculation here. Okay, just a little reckless speculation among friends, right?
Reckless speculation.
You're probably not yucking it up. It's a night practice. You're probably not sitting out and yucking it up with the owner of the franchise unless you're waiting for the ink to dry on your new lucrative contract.
That'd be
Right?
great. So
see.
you're saying press conference tomorrow. Your reckless speculation is Saturday.
I'd say probably like a Monday press
Okay,
conference.
but you get it done. Get it done. But yeah, so don't worry about it. TJ Hawkinson appears to be fine, but it was interesting that he only took part in portions of practice. The juxtaposition to that was Justin Jefferson, who is eligible for a contract, but has 2 years instead of 1 left on his current rookie deal, was lights out, like Justin does. All right, so as I told you, pack a lunch. We've got in my notes here, we've actually got so much to talk about that I have in bold in caps, I have 3 more categories.
Holy
the
cow.
offense, other notes, which are intriguing, and the kicking notes. So if we would like to do an ad read here, I suggest we take a little break.
Oh wow! Look
I
at this
suggest
guy.
we take a little
He's
break, and
calling these calls. This
I'm
is
going to turn
great.
the show over to you so that we can have a little bit of a halftime here. Bear with us.
You know, there's nothing
Quality
like
control.
a great halftime snack at our favorite place in the North Loop, 3 Jack. Dex, tell the audience.
Oh my gosh! Yes, there's a quality control coach, Judd Zolgad, calling his shot here with the golf simulator bay, maybe to the nachos, that hot chicken sandwich, that steak sandwich. Plenty of great options at 3 Jack. And you know, maybe you didn't get a tea time in. If you didn't book a tea time this weekend, and you still want to get your swings in, why don't you go to 3 Jack? 3jack.com to book that bay. And with the Twins coming back to town soon as well, show them your ticket stub, and they'll actually give you a free drink on them. Go to 3Jack and 3Jack.com to learn more.
You know, I don't want to spoil anything here, but I got a call this week from our friends at Power Lodge that said, would you guys be interested in like doing some Purple Daily content or a podcast from a pontoon before the summer's over?
Okay.
Yes, that would be amazing. Especially because Power Lodge is celebrating their 25th year. And so they've got 25 days of deals that they're going to be unveiling on Power Lodge social media. Look at, there's Judd right there teaching someone how to fish, as he always does on these Bennington pontoons.
Yeah, that's very, very funny. I will not be, I would not be fishing, but enjoying talking football on a pontoon. Are you kidding me? Oh, I love that idea.
Talking football
fantastic.
while fishing. I think we need to see if we can get Judd to multitask.
We got one.
I'm not really an adept. I'm not really an adept fisherman, and I don't have the equipment, but I would be willing to try. Like, I've done it before. It's been years. It's been absolutely years. Yeah. I'm not real good at casting.
Casting?
You need the perfect cast, man. Come on.
The cast, you know, when you
it's pretty easy. I mean, it depends. It depends on the you know. Do you have the button, which is just the catch and release, or do you have to have the finger on, you know, the other one? This is me
I'm
being
old
a
school
novice fisherman.
I don't do buttons.
Judd
I've
does
never done a button.
branch with like some string tied.
Yeah, exactly. Dex, I'm like 1890s.
I think there was that
guy
one
catching fish to
Huck
eat.
Finn.
Hey, honey, I'm home.
There was that kids fishing pole in the early 2000s when I was a kid. That was it was basically a Nerf gun of a fishing rod. You just pushed a button and it would just
Okay.
It would just
Shoot
pop
it
off. Yeah.
I could do that. Okay,
Maybe get one of those for Judd. Those don't come with the pontoon. Go to powerlodge.com or millermarine.com and snag some throttle therapy for yourself. Okay, back to the Judd's camp notes here. We're getting into some bolded categories now in his notebook.
So category 2, the offense and Jordan Addison. And I want to weave these two together, but I think it's a pretty exciting conversation. So there is no question about it. Jordan Addison continues to flash.
Awesome.
His speed looks, I mean, he is fast. He is going to, you can see why he's going to stretch the field, or more importantly, create the perception that he will. See, it's not like you've got to hit him time after time on deep routes, right? It's the perception of, we have to account for him, which was the problem last year. You didn't have that guy. And so there was a double move that he made on rookie draft pick Jay Ward in a one-on-one drill where I think Ward, who is a very versatile defensive back, was technically a cornerback, for a touchdown from Kirk. It was a really nice catch. He almost made a great catch in the end zone, in the corner of the end zone. It was broken up, and we'll get back to this name too, by a cornerback by the name of Jalen Williams, who was a UDFA, I believe, from Indiana. Mm-hmm. It was a really nice defensive play. Now, in the red zone drill, Addison comes back and makes a great catch in the back of the end zone and gets his feet in. They also, and this is the most important one in my opinion, and it resulted in an incompletion, but this is where I think the conversation goes. There's one play in team drills in the stadium where Kirk drops back and Addison is wide open, way down the field, and Kirk overshoots him. Okay, that's not great. But the fact was, there was 2 or 3 times where I saw this transpire, and Addison got open almost every single time. Mm-hmm. And so this is where it's now unfolding, and we've talked about this, so it's not breaking news, but this is where we're seeing the offense. This is the vision. This is the vision that Adam Thielen couldn't give you because he couldn't create separation. And quite frankly, by 2022, with his injuries, he couldn't run. Jordan Addison is consistently going to get you the threat of being down the field in this practice too. And like, they were doing this stuff, so it's not like it's not like a formulated opinion of what could be. Justin Jefferson catching everything underneath, and then KJ Osborne, who I would still consider the 2. So if the depth chart, if we just went by a 1 wide receiver depth chart, and they'll obviously use 3, you guys, but it would be Justin Jefferson, KJ right now, Addison 3rd. But KJ Osborne also caught a touchdown, caught a couple of nice passes. Like, this is the vision of how this is going to work. And the fact is, the Vikings have the ability, at least with these 3, to have different ways to punch you with the passing game that's going to create even more for Jefferson. Because the focal point is, how can we get Jefferson, first of all, not double covered as much, but when he is, how can we make teams pay?
All right, there's a lot to unpack here. This is really
There is.
good stuff. Let's dive a little bit deeper here on Jordan Addison. So, what I want to know from you is one of the knocks on him, besides size, right? Size was, in terms of like height and weight, he's really low on the percentile scale of, he's listed at 5'11", 171 pounds at the NFL Combine. Most receivers are much closer to 200 pounds or over 200 pounds, and 6'2". There's some 6'3", 6'4" guys out there. So he comes into the league as one of the more like diminutive wide receivers, right? And then you look at some of his like relative athletic score stuff. The 40-yard dash, he ran a 4.49, so call it a 4.5, which was in like the 70th percentile. So he wasn't a burner coming out. The 20-yard split on the 40-yard dash was even lower in terms of percentile, like the 68th percentile.
Yep.
So what is it from now that you've sort of seen him, if you just lined up a bunch of NFL players and said, go run a 40-yard dash, he would not win that race. He would not even be in the top 30% of that race, right?
Correct.
What makes his football speed flash more than his testing and combine speed?
That's a great question, Phil.
Because clearly he gets separation, right?
Well, yeah,
so
yes,
it's route running, it's technique.
In 2000, if Jordan Addison had been the same age as Troy Williamson in 2005, Troy would have kicked his ass in a race. Here's the difference. And this is, so two things. I've always contended, and Chris Carter showed this in his prime, straight line speed is not how football is played. Yep. Straight line speed is great if you're in track and field, but the reality is how quickly can you get to your route mark? Now, here's what the difference is too that I think I've seen in practice, and this is the nuance of this entire thing. Jordan Addison's footwork. Watch Jefferson's footwork on like cone drills. It's unbelievable. Like he is, I would liken it to a great boxer. Mm-hmm. I would liken it to a great boxer who might not be the greatest boxer in the world, but footwork is a huge part of that sport. And you watch these guys, when they line up and you watch the footwork, you can see guys who are like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like they're all fine. But then you see a Jefferson, or in my opinion, in watching Addison, the speed with which they move their feet to get to where they're going. Yeah. That's the difference. And Addison has that. And that's the thing too is, Thielen, I don't think we would ever consider a burner. But there was a long time when he was fast enough playing football, right? And part of it's because he was a pro's pro. He knew how to run a route and his footwork was good. So I think it goes, we fall in love so much with 40-yard dash. What was your time in the 40? But the reality is that's just a small piece here. And Addison's ability on double moves, like he knows what he's doing, which is a huge thing because we've seen guys who don't. Cordell Patterson was a phenomenally, and still is, a phenomenally talented athlete. But why wasn't he a great receiver? Route running and ability to get to where he was supposed to be at the right time. So that's where I think that there is a difference. And I'm not guaranteeing that Jordan is going to be all world immediately. I'm just saying I'm seeing things that are crystallizing what the vision of Kevin O'Connell clearly is as he sips happily on us before I die.
And you know what? It's been a week of training camp, little over a week of training camp. And we said, one of the first things we said a week and a half ago after the speeding thing and some of the weird off-season stuff is, you know what? Just put your head down, go play football, put your head in the playbook, and go have a good camp. And it's great to see that he is responding in that way after the first 8, 9, 10 days of training camp. So this is exactly how you should respond after your first summer in the NFL with injuries and with getting pulled over and stuff. Gets you off to kind of a weird start.
Yes. And keep in mind too, the old thing that I always say, there's a big difference between sports and football smarts and like knowing not to drive too fast. So the kid, I'm off the field, I got no clue. The kid might be a dummy, but as long as he can run his routes and doesn't get himself in trouble off the field, I'll take sports smarts every time.
Yeah. All right.
Some of the dumbest people I've known are really, really sports smart.
Yep. No, including
it's weird,
media.
but it's true.
Including
media. Look at me. Okay, it is time to do other notes. Other notes from last night's practice. There are some surprising competitions here. There is a note on safeties that is very different. There is a play of the night to get to, but I want to start with this one because this is a guy that we've talked about a lot. And during Unchained with Royce, Phil asked me about who would be my top 3 candidates right now if we still did Mr. Mankato, which, as Phil said, with Patrick has lost its luster a little bit, not being in Mankato now. But this was very interesting to me because I don't think I've seen it yet in drills, team drills, until last night. Ivan Pace Jr., who came off the pup, was on the pup to start training camp, came off of it. Mm-hmm. He got extensive reps with the first team in place of Brian Asamoah, who got reps first team and second team, and so did Pace. But as far as I can tell from what we witnessed last night, this is a competition. And it might be a situational one. There certainly might be times with a year of pro experience that Brian Flores is more comfortable with Asamoah. I don't know on that one. But this was not like some, hey, kid, go in there for a few snaps. This was extensive time. Ivan Pace, who is 5'10", 231, and Asamoah, who is listed at 6 feet, 226. There appears to be a real competition here, and this goes back to what we've been talking about. It's because I think they're going to perceive that linebacker spot as almost a hybrid safety as well. So it's not going to be the traditional linebacker, stop the run. I think that's Jordan Hicks.
Super, super interesting here because, this is, I think we've just sort of penciled in our heads that Brian Asamoah, right? He's going to be started. But
you've cautioned against that for months.
Because he hasn't, and I'm a Brian Asamoah guy, but he hasn't played. He's barely played any snaps in the NFL on actual defense. So, does he just get the job? Right? I sort of like this. Even if their plan is to give it to Asamoah, he should have to earn it too. If there's another guy or two, they're pretty thin in terms of like who would actually be. There's really like 3 guys that you might trust to start, and that maybe 4, like Troy Dye, but. So it's not exactly a thick group of competition, but I love it, man. I either love it for the optics and for just, hey, Brian, you got to earn this thing. And also, Ivan Pace was one of the best linebackers in college football, and some size and like arm stuff, doesn't necessarily translate to the NFL, but he's definitely one. If we were still doing like an official Mr. Mankato thing, Ivan Pace might be the favorite right now based on running with the ones, right?
Absolutely. But I think this also goes back to what Flores' intent is here as well. And as far as the linebacker position goes now, as we're a week plus into training camp, it's very clear to me that Jordan Hicks is going to be the foundational guy. He's going to be the guy that they look to lead it, and he's going to be the guy probably that they look to stop the run, right? Mm-hmm. That other position, I think, is going to be very intriguing. And I think that guy, because if it's Asamoah or Pace, is going to be young and fast. I think you're looking at a position there, again, that's sort of a hybrid safety as well. So that to me, though, was eye-opening because I didn't expect it. I guess I'm not completely shocked, but that's the first one.
Hey, real quick, one thing on Ivan Pace, just one more thing. Sure. So, and maybe we can talk a little bit more, but you know what? Actually, I'm going to save this because I think there's a great, we're going to do some Feedback Friday for our Saturday episode, and I'd love to just lead with some Ivan Pace stuff because there's more meat on that bone, and we can do more of it on the next episode. So carry on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Hitman is back. Wow. The Hitman is back, and he ain't playing a cover 2. He ain't playing a shell. Harrison Smith is going to go back to how he was used. It's very, very clear in his heyday with Zimmer. And again, much like, and look, Harrison Smith is a better player than Hicks, but much like with Hicks, I think that there's just this complete confidence too, that this guy is not going to take him time. He's going to know what he's doing. He's not going to at least screw up schematically. But in watching those safeties last night, just get after it all over the place. You didn't know, and it goes back to Phil, what you observed in Tuesday's practice. You don't know who's going to do what. And Harrison Smith is going to be a linchpin of that. But I think it's very, very safe to say that the Hitman is back in town, and he ain't Eddie Donatell's. Harrison Smith. Putting the cape back on.
All of this is such an indictment on Donatel, right? And this defense,
but it's
this
over.
defense is probably going to struggle. You know, no one's going to mistake this defense for the 2000 Ravens here. But how do you take that job last year and say, Harrison Smith, you're going to do it my way? You know, like, why would you not? These defensive coordinators that have a scheme and a system, and this is how we, as opposed to coming in and saying, okay. So Danielle Hunter likes to do this, and Harrison Smith is good at this, and then sort of molding it that way. Like, that's at the very least, Brian Flores is coming in and saying, week to week, by the way, because remember when Joe Schmidt from Channel 5 asked him at the introductory press conference, do you run a 4-3 or a 3-4? And he goes, who are we playing? Right. What week is it?
Right.
So he is using chess pieces the way that they are supposed to be used. So this is... Hopefully Harrison Smith has not reached the age cliff yet, because it'll be fun for at least one season to see what he looks like in this type of system.
He's in fantastic shape. I think he's fine. I think he's fine because I think he is, unless he gets hurt, I think he is so smart by now too that he's always going to be around the right place.
Yeah.
So like if there's a weakness with his aging and he can't get to the position or the place that he ordinarily would, I think the difference now is he'll basically be there because he's just so smart.
Yep.
All right, that's the good news at safety. The bad news is this. After watching practice last night, it's very clear why Lewis Seen is a backup. There were just a few broken plays with him. I mean, it wasn't a disastrous practice, but you can see why the coaching staff is just like, because Cam Bynum, Harrison Smith, obviously, and Josh Metellus, in fact, in his preseason press conference the Tuesday before practice started, Harrison Smith talked about Metellus is basically, he could coach us. Like he could get up in the safety room and lead us. Wow. Like he knows that much. And so it's like Bynum, same way, incredibly smart. Harrison Smith, Metellus, and all the athletic ability in the world isn't going to save your ass if you are in the wrong position or not picking things up. And I'm not even trying to say it's easy, because we all know it's not. Like there's a lot of things to learn, but I think what's holding Seen back more so than coming off the broken leg is the same thing that was holding him back a year ago. And I think it's when you stack him up against the three guys that are getting substantial playing time at safety, he doesn't have the same ability to process things yet, and we're now 2 years in.
Could he? Okay, this would obviously be not what you spent a first-round draft pick on, but could he turn into a special teams ace at the very least?
Yeah.
You know, could you salvage it that way? Where all right, you're going to be awesome on. All you have to know is go get the guy with the ball, right, on punt coverage or kickoffs.
This is going to bite him in the ass if a guy gets hurt or if Smith retires after this season. Like, that's where it's going to bite him. I think it's fine. I mean, it's not fine because it's a first-round pick, but I think it's workable now. But, at some point in time, the expectation was he was probably going to step in for Smith.
Yeah.
So I think this bites him in the butt really badly if he's not up to speed a year from now or at whatever point he's actually, it's like, no, dude, you got to play.
Interesting. Well, that's not good news for Vikings fans, but we've kind of seen that one coming from, no pun intended.
It's very unfortunate.
Okay. You have anything else in other, or do we get to the thing, the Declan note?
I got to play of the night because 2-minute drill, end of practice, second team offense, trying to move the ball. Nick Mullins, a quarterback, of course. Okay. So in that drill, he throws a pass over the middle to a wide receiver named Thayer Thomas. Do you recall when I said that I was going to bring back the name Jalen Williams, the UDFA from Indiana? Mm-hmm. He lights Thayer Thomas up. Football hit.
Oh.
This is like a regular season. He lights him up. Or no, I'm sorry. It's Theo Jackson does it. Jalen Williams picks the carom of the ball off and takes it in for a touchdown.
Wait. Okay, so hold on.
So Theo Jackson, who's a safety, lights up Thayer Thomas, who was going to catch the ball. The ball pops in the air, and Jalen Williams, he picks the ball off and houses it.
Wow. So we're not supposed to do that, though. I know it's full pads and stuff, but we're not supposed to be.
I don't think Coordinator Flores was probably too upset about that, though.
Was coordinator Phillips
Flores
upset about it? Coordinator.
Well, that'd be more O'Connell, but
Kevin O'Coordinator.
But anyway, the aggressiveness, while not encouraged, this again shows, and yes, these were second team guys, but this again shows the mentality is different too.
Yeah, let's not be taking a bunch of dumb 15-yard penalties.
Well,
but I'm here for being aggressive.
I don't think it would have been a penalty in a regular season game. He lights them up in a practice. And look, if that is Osborne, Addison, or God forbid Jefferson, that guy's off my team today. Yeah. But it wasn't. The aggressiveness.
If it's one of these other slappies,
it's very football.
Wheel him off the field.
It's very football. Okay, so kicking notes. This is last night was the second time, but with a night practice and a bunch of fans there, it was really the first time that we no pun intended kicked off the kicking competition between Jack Podlesny and Greg Joseph. And this is where a fan at the end of practice yelled at me, "You make sure Declan sees this. You make sure you talk about this." I forget your name because I don't recall names, but I'm about to do it.
Hey, guy who yelled at me at practice,
his name.
Loyal listener and viewer of Purple Daily.
I didn't get his name, but we appreciate you,
Johnny.
But I'm about to fulfill what I said I would, which is, okay, Podlesny. What they did was they had both kickers attempt field goals to end the 2-minute drills, and then they brought them back and had them just go back in like 7-yard increments. Okay. Podlesny, not surprising, didn't get the same amount of kicks. Now, at the end of the 2-minute drill, both these guys were perfect. Podlesny, I have him making one for 48 yards. Greg Joseph made his from 45. So for that, they're perfect. Now we get into the sort of competition, the showdown. Podlesny hits from 45 and 50 and misses wide left from 33. So he's 2 of 3.
He missed from 33.
I know. Sort of an extra point, right? Right? But let's talk about Greg Joseph. 4 of 7.
Ooh, that was about his percentage, I feel like, last year.
He hits from 32.
Anyways.
He hits from 32. He hits from 45. He hits from 52. And at the very end, for his last kick, he finally hit from 58. But here's why it took some time. He missed wide left. All 3 of these misses wide left from 38. And then he was going to end practice with a 58-yard attempt. He missed those twice wide left before he finally made one.
So he missed a 38-yarder, you said, and 2 58-yarders?
And Podlesny missed from 33. Okay. You'd like to see those made. So I would say we don't have a kicking competition except for this. Ryan Wright made the team. So I think we do. I think Matt Daniels and this coaching staff has shown that they are taking competitions like this seriously, and that Podlesny is not just a camp leg, and that this is something to certainly watch. Greg Joseph is the favorite, but I don't think he's a slam dunk.
Okay, Declan, did you get that memo there, Declan? Just want to make sure you were.
I did.
Are you going to be upset if he's cut?
I mean, it depends if Podlesny looks better.
Oh, so your loyalty is not to Greg Joseph anymore.
Yeah, I thought you were.
I like Greg Joseph didn't cost the team games last year. In fact, he was Special Teams Player of the Week. He won them a few games. If you want to really go back if they won or lost games, Greg Joseph actually won you a few games last year. No, I'm down with whatever kicker is making the most kicks and the one that makes sense for them. So if Podlesny comes in and steals this job, no, I'm not completely upset about that. That's fine.
Yeah, I have no real commitment to Greg Joseph here if I'm the Vikings. He's not from 50 plus yards and extra points. He's really shaky. So if they feel like there's somebody better, all right. I don't think anyone's going to be up in arms if he's a surprise cut, a week before week 1. We'll see.
All right, and then final transaction notes. They signed a couple of tackles and released a guard. They're clearly trying to get that right. I think the Reisner thing was actually potentially for a starter. What they did on Friday is backup depth guys who probably don't make the team out of training camp. But it is worth noting Kene Nwangwu didn't practice last night. Okay. And there was a report from a guru of XFL coverage that the Vikings plan to sign Abram Smith of the DC Defenders, who led the XFL in rushing in 2023, 791 yards, 7 touchdowns, 13 receptions, 91 yards. Abram Smith, as you watch him go through the workouts, if Kane's going to be out, they probably just need more depth too. But you know what? I'm not positive that those backup spots are locked up necessarily. So I guess I have some interest if Abram Smith could actually, with playing time, make a run at a roster spot.
So Abram Smith, yeah, he's a Baylor guy. I think I made a failed prediction that he was going to win the XFL championship game MVP a few months ago. Pretty sure I made.
Oh, is that who you predicted? I remember you predicted.
Yep. So he basically did not play much at all his first 3 years, but as a senior, he was the bell cow at Baylor in 2021. So he's 2 years removed from graduating from Baylor. He carried the ball 257 times for 1,600 yards, 12 touchdowns. He averaged 6.2 yards per carry. So, he's done it at a high level in an offensive-centric Big 12, and then he dominated the XFL. So, is he any? I mean, he's kind of in a similar bin as like a Dwayne McBride or maybe a Ty Chandler, where you put up a bunch of yards in college and see what happens.
So,
okay.
That's it. That's the notebook. I am Tucker.
That is a beefy
Hope you all enjoyed it.
From Judd right there. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us here live on a Friday morning. We're going to keep doing this on Fridays just a little bit after 10 o'clock a.m. Central Time. We're also discussing potentially going live on Monday mornings during the football season. So we'll kind of unveil more of a fall schedule going forward here. But we love doing these live streams. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button and the like button on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. You can help us continue to grow this awesome community of Vikings fans. And thanks for hanging out with us. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. And now Kevin O'Connell knows who it's coming from.